Hello, I'm Adrian, and today we're taking an in-depth look at Captain America's fighting style. Captain America is without a doubt one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most skilled hand-to-hand combatants. Not only does he have a strong background in standing martial arts, he's also incredibly good as a ground fighter as well. What's pretty great too is that we do have 6 movies to base ourselves off of in terms of his fighting style, so we can really gain a much deeper understanding of his different techniques. So without further ado, let's take a look at which fighting styles or martial arts Captain America is skilled in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. First, we must address the tremendous ability he has in launching his shield. Not only to incapacitate enemies directly, but also as a way to add extra oomph to a technique. He has mastered the art of throwing it in order for it to ricochet off walls, and the closest thing we can approximate this to is discus throw. Sure, the track and field event is not a martial art at all, but I'm going to be counting it as a fighting style in this situation since he has turned discus throw into an extremely deadly skill. Next up is his tremendous skill in Muay Thai. Muay Thai is all about using your knees and elbows as powerful striking tools, and that is exactly what Cap does throughout his films. But not only that, he also employs advanced Muay Thai techniques such as a flying knee, where you launch your knee strike into the air for maximum impact. Cap is also very skilled in boxing. He's able to launch crosses and uppercuts with absolutely no problem, and is excellent at bobbing and weaving. In fact, most of his exchange with Crossbones was a straight up boxing match. Although he does eventually overpower him with other martial arts techniques, the blunt of the damage was delivered with his exceptional boxing style. Cap is extremely good at throwing tiny projectile weapons, able to easily toss knives across long distances and still make them land. What's extremely tricky about this is that, believe it or not all knives are meant to be thrown like that. As a matter of fact, there are very specific throwing knives that are aerodynamically designed to fly through the air. It takes an exceptional amount of skill to do what he does. If you want to get really technical, Ninjutsu is actually an umbrella to a variety of different styles, very much like Kung Fu. And within Ninjutsu there is Shuriken Jutsu, the term used to describe the traditional Japanese martial art of throwing small projectile weapons, including knives. So for purposes of this video, I'll safely assume he's a practitioner of Shuriken Jutsu. However, not only is he good at throwing the knife, he's also extremely adept at disarming people with knives. And although I am tempted to say he's probably well versed in Kali, as that martial art is dedicated to learning how to effectively use and disarm weapons, including knives, the disarms look much more practical without the fancier hand motions you see in Kali, so I will have to go ahead and attribute that to Krav Maga. On the subject of Krav Maga, like in my previous fighting style video, I mentioned that several practitioners don't even consider it a martial art as it was created specifically for self-defense purposes in real-life situations, and was never meant for sporting events, and is more than anything else an amalgamation of techniques from other martial arts with certain modifications to make it quicker or more brutal. For example, in Krav Maga there's a strong emphasis in targeting the weak points of the body, such as the throat or the knee. We see its concept of 360 defense with Captain America, where you extend your arms outward to block the incoming weapon by focusing on the wrist. He actually executes this when he's trying to block the stun hits in the elevator, and actually does throw a quick headbutt as well. This is not by any means exclusive to Krav Maga, but it's actively encouraged in that fighting method due to its lack of rules. However, without a doubt, Cap's most prominent used techniques are kicks, and most are directly from the Korean martial art Taekwondo. Let's take a look at all the various ones he uses throughout the series. His favorite kick, by far, is the push kick. It's accomplished by lifting the knee and effectively pushing forward by extending your leg. It can be done with a pushing motion or with more of a blunt snapping motion, but the travel arc remains the same. Now that you know the kick, how about we see a quick montage of all the times he's used it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yep, 10 push kicks. As you could probably tell, it is ludicrously effective in creating distance between your opponents, catching them off guard, disarming, although I honestly would not personally recommend this, and if you're a super soldier, using a card to add extra oomph to your hit. But besides the push kick, Cap is a fan of several other techniques, including the spin hook kick. What makes this kick so devastating is that you're using your whole body as a torque to deliver maximum impact. Your kick comes flying in a hook motion, hence the name, and this kick is most often responsible for knockouts in the sport of Taekwondo. Cap also uses the jump spin hook kick, which he slightly modifies with Spider-Man hitting him with his calf instead of the bottom of his foot, the sweep kick, useful for knocking your enemies to the ground, the roundhouse, perhaps the most widely taught kick in all of Taekwondo, as it is one of the quickest and strongest techniques available. This technique right here is usually reserved for board breaking, and it's known as a split kick or scissor kick, in which you side kick with one leg and execute a quick front kick with the other. He also throws the crescent kick, and of course we also have the spinning back kick, which he adds a small jump to compensate for the lack of distance he has to his enemy. He even goes so far as to perform the very theatrical 540 hook kick. He's also extremely proficient at executing all these kicks with heavy boots on, so we can safely assume he's a practitioner of Savate. However, sometimes the kicks get even fancier than that, and that is when we venture into the realm of Wushu. Wushu really puts the art in martial art, as it includes a wide variety of very big, graceful, fancy kicks. Using this wide array of flips and spins usually equates to this martial art. Unlike several other superheroes, Captain America is not afraid to use his whole weight as a weapon and take it to the ground if need be. He's very well versed in wrestling techniques, and I'm talking about the professional wrestling kind. He effortlessly delivers drop kicks, can go in for choke holds, even on aliens, can go from a high-flying flip to slamming a body in no time, and even performs a rad suplex on the Winter Soldier, the very same move countless WWE stars have used. But don't think that just because he has a flair for the theatrical, he doesn't have proper ground game, as that is far from the truth. Before you even get to the ground though, you need to put your opponent there, and there are a couple ways to do it. The easiest and most common way is to go in for a tackle or takedown, where you throw your body forward underneath his arms and use your momentum to slam the guy to the ground. Cap never hesitates to take the fight to the ground, which means he knows he will not be outskilled if the fight does end up there. Another method to have your opponent end up on the ground is to lead him there by using a throwing attack. His most common and most widely used technique is a good old judo hip throw, where you use your opponent's arm to essentially flip him onto the floor while using your hips. He's also a fan of choke holds, and although his rear naked choke, a blood choke, is closely associated with judo, it's also widely used in Krav Maga, Jiu-Jitsu, and other martial arts. Which brings us to one of Cap's most valuable tools in his fighting arsenal, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu is all about ground control, trying to get your enemy to a point where he must submit by using a variety of joint locks, and he more than readily demonstrates that skill in his excellent fight against Winter Soldier. If you'd like to see any of the fight scenes seen here discussed in much further detail, check out the various fight scene breakdowns I've made for Captain America. In any case, how many fighting styles does that bring us to? We got Muay Thai, boxing, Shuriken Jutsu, Krav Maga, Taekwondo, Savate, Wushu, professional wrestling, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and discus throw. Which brings us to the grand total of 11 fighting styles. Which is your favorite? What other character would you like me to perform an in-depth fighting style analysis on? Let me know in the comments below, and remember to subscribe and follow me on my social media accounts to find out when the next video comes out. You can also support the channel via Patreon and get exclusive rewards. See you next time.